All right. We are technically live, so hopefully all my students are here. I got to click on comments. So this is the first time I'm kind of going back and forth between students being here
Okay.
versus kind of going virtual. So I love to do this, and I know you're busy, and you can take a few minutes out of your day. So thank you so much.
Cool. Well, I appreciate that.
All right, as far as students go, please comment. Shoot, I'm gonna have to move the camera, move this a little bit, just so I can see the comments. All right, please comment with your name, say that you're here, so I can jot that down, take attendance, and then I will ask a few questions about everything Elena and I talk about today this week. And so hopefully, there's about a 10-second delay. Hopefully comments will start coming in.
Okay.
And then we'll start chatting. Thank you, Sydney. I see you. Thank you, Maya. And we actually have a student who's in the dance department here.
Oh, cool.
We talked about doing sort of a minor or certificate in exercise science along with her dance, but she's going for a 5-year double major with exercise science and physical therapy, or exercise science and dance.
Oh, good for her. That's awesome.
So, yeah, she's Mylan Ray is there. So I told her about kind of talking with you and wrapping her head around that a little bit. I've talked to Maggie, the director of the dance department here.
Nice.
As far as dancers going into dance, but then what is an alternative? And we have something called a certificate.
Okay.
Where it kind of mixes. It's not a major and a minor necessarily, but it's usually about a 2-year program. It's like 3 classes on my side, 3 classes on their side, at least, if not a major.
Okay.
Where they can get a certificate in exercise science as a dance major. So it's kind of a minor, kind of a little bit of a way to do a minor, I guess. Anyway,
okay.
As far as opening up opportunities, as far as mixing dance performance with fitness, or to teach, in a studio on the side, or a fitness element,
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
It's a perfect combination. Understanding the body, how it moves with dance, with physical therapy. It's a great combination.
Yeah. And remind me, did you study dance in college?
No. So actually I went in as dietetics and nutrition was my undergrad degree. Really with the idea that I was going to always go to physical therapy. So I wanted to get a program that also covered the prerequisites for physical therapy, but I was a competitive dancer. So I did competitive dance with my college team, and then I was a universal dance instructor. Have you seen the cheerleading and dance competitions on ESPN?
Yeah.
So I worked for that company during the summers.
Like running camps and things?
Yeah. So we did camps and all summer long type of thing, and choreographed for different high schools type of stuff like that. But no, I didn't major in it. The plan was always physical therapy. I just did like a direct route as I could. I wish I could have done dance as a major, but it just didn't work with my schedule. So
sure. Now, when you go to a competition like that, who's around as far as a PT and ATC? Are there athletic trainers in an event like that?
Yeah. So when I was a universal dance instructor, at every camp and every competition, they had an athletic training staff. I was an instructor in Illinois, and side note, Illinois was the biggest state for per capita dance teams that would go to that company. So we would have camps of like 800 girls. So our athletic training staff often was at least 2 or 3 people.
Okay.
Yeah.
As far as opportunities go, I think we can talk about that as far as you being in a clinic, different outpatient, inpatient, and also, especially we have a few students interested in athletic training, which I was.
Yeah.
But if you're an athletic trainer, depending on whether there's camps at the school you work with, or the PT clinic you work with, or opportunities just to contract with something like that. I remember working at the Show Me State Games, the Prairie State Games, actually. The Illinois had the Prairie State Games. I used to go over and work like the soccer tournaments and things like that. It's kind of cool to see.
Yeah, we used to have an athletic training department at this clinic, actually, with 4 or 5 ATCs contracted out to Lindbergh, Clayton, Ladue. But they closed that program because we weren't as competitive with pricing, I think, with like Mercy and other organizations that just did exclusively athletic training. But we used to have all ATCs on staff and personal trainers and PTs when we first started. So.
So our dance major, Mylan, just asked, you said you taught dance. Were you working on, I'll show it to you. You said you taught dance. Were you working as a PT while teaching dance? And were there any conflicts?
So no, yeah, when I taught dance, I was in college, so I was working towards becoming a PT. If I was teaching dance now, at least in respect to our clinic hours here, it would be hard because we work 3 days a week till 7 p.m. But actually, we've had a couple therapists who've taught dance on the side in the past. And really, the studios are probably pretty easy to do since usually they're open till 9 or 10. So you could probably work that out. But I mean, it would be hard to work a full time job and a part time job.
Yeah, oh sure.
I'm not going to lie about that.
Yeah.
But it's possible.
Right.
So
When you're young, work as
for
much as you
sure.
can.
I mean, and especially with a PT schedule versus, like you said, an AT schedule, you guys are kind of at the mercy of when your events are. Um, if you're in an outpatient setting where that's open from 8 to 5, I'm done after 5. You know, athletic trainers work all weekends whenever there's games. That's a hard hustle too. That's half the reason I also chose PT, because I could have a more normal schedule.
That is a big part of it. I mean, I love athletic training and just being around the environment, being in the locker room, being in the training room, and knowing you be there, putting away coolers and taking tape off at 10 o'clock at night after a game. It's a long,
Yeah, absolutely.
I love the knowledge, but not as much the schedule, so that's
why you got to think about that stuff.
I worked 6-7 days a week for several years of fitness too, just kind of building a business and stuff like that too. So
for sure.
All right. So for the students, where are you right now? So just describe a little bit where you are in Crestwood, how close you are to Webster University.
Yeah. So
your facility is.
So we're at 119 Watson Plaza, which is in Crestwood by the Coles, if you guys know where that's at. So really close to Webster and Webster University. This building used to be like an EJ Shoes. So it's like a big warehouse style building. We have physical therapy and personal training here, but if you were to walk in off the street, you would kind of think we're more of a gym.
Oh, wow. Okay. Just like the type of equipment you have or
yeah, the type of equipment we have. We have squat racks, we have machines. I've worked at this clinic for 11 years, so I haven't been to a lot of other physical therapy clinics in a while, but usually you would walk into a physical therapy clinic and usually you see a couple Swiss balls, some tubing, maybe some ankle weights, a treadmill and a bike. We're not that place. We very much cater towards people who want to be physically fit and get back into more of a gym type setting.
Yeah, sure. And do you have any Webster students working there correctly? You do have.
Yes. Yeah. Haley Bush.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a tech right now. So my boss's daughter, she was a Webster U dance major. She's here right now actually taking a dance class. So we also have a dance space too, a studio with bars. It's a pretty big facility. I mean, I can walk around with this computer if you want, but you might not be able to hear. It's pretty loud out there right now. So.
All right. All right. So as far as your undergraduate, you said dietetics and sports nutrition, or dietetics and?
I think at the time, so I was in college from 2003 to 2007. The idea was to always go to physical therapy. So I got into SLU, which accepts you in as a freshman to graduate level PT school. I believe your major then is like kinesiology. But I also got into Missouri State. They do not have an acceptance in as a freshman, so you have to apply when you're a senior to go to graduate school. I would like to say I picked Missouri State because it was cheaper, but I really picked Missouri State because they had a better competitive dance team. So I just hoped that it would work out and I would get into graduate school there. At the time, I did not have a specific major in my mind. So I went to a major fair and I said, what can I do to get both requisites for PT and kind of like a science background? And it was, they recommended dietetics or nutrition or cellular or molecular biology. I was more interested in nutrition, so I went that route.
Right.
Which I thought was going to get an RD eventually, but I didn't. That would have been a whole extra year of an internship unpaid, and I just couldn't do that financially. So
Sure. So you stayed at Missouri State the entire time?
Yeah, I was there for 7 years. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so that application process, although you're kind of in-house, or you stayed internal, I guess, overall.
Yep.
But you still had to go through the full application process.
Yeah, as a senior, you go through the full application process again. There's interviews. You take the GRE. Yeah, and luckily I got in. I wasn't waitlisted or anything. So
Good. And you have to do observation hours.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know what they required, if there was a set requirement. I think I did around 50, and then you get letters of recommendation as well. I had a good recommendation through a physician that I had kind of done observation / research with as a high school student. So I think that probably helped a lot. And my GRE was good. I also went in and did like a pre-interview interview. I talked to the guy who did admissions, and I sat down and asked him questions about the program, even though I kind of already knew a lot of stuff, just to get FaceTime.
Sure.
So
which is so key. I talk to students about talking to professors, but
yep.
Wherever you want to go, or if you're looking at 3 different schools for graduate school, the more you can find out about the school, find out who that person is, send a personal email, because you don't know who's, you don't want just your transcript or piece of paper showing up in an inbox or a mailbox, because that's going to be kind of you, right? Yeah. And you're so much more than that. So any FaceTime or anything you could do to talk to people
totally
is invaluable. Going back to school, if there's anything different you could have studied, you're thinking RD at the time. Is there any other emphasis or focus or minor maybe you like to tack on to what you studied?
Yeah, I don't know. I think if I were to change things, so the PT department also had physician's assistant program in-house. I might have done that because there's a lot of different things that you can do. But I also really like the physical therapy realm, that movement is healing, as opposed to the pharmacological aspect of kind of more the physician's assistant type of way.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, again, I'm like very money oriented, and I knew that college was going to be, and graduate school is going to be on me. So being a physician's assistant, that's 2 years of school versus 3 years of school, which is PT. So from a money standpoint, that might have been worth it, but I think I made the right choice.
Good. Yeah. And as we try to talk about that, we actually had a business professor talk last week, and we'll follow up as a class, to my students, I'm saying this, but also just this idea. He talked about the difference between wealth and income, as far as just kind of building and, assets or wealth or value, but then also what your net income is per week, but also, not to be money oriented, like all you care about is money, but to be aware of the fact that that's a big part of it, and to understand that. And it doesn't matter what you want to do. Whether you want to travel, be charitable, raise a family, it's a big part of that. And I think a lot of students saying, I'll make enough money, I'll be able to pay off my loans, just to kind of keep those things in mind.
Right.
Whether you're on loan right now, someone else is paying for your education, that, it's a good chunk.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you have to like what you do. You're going to do it for years. So
are you from St. Louis?
I am. I grew up on the Illinois side of the river, Belleville.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Which we have some students from Southern Illinois and the Belleville area and throughout. So a lot of them come over.
Yeah.
Okay. So you kind of knew you're going to end up back in St. Louis?
No. I came back, and so what you have to do for physical therapy is you have to sit for a state board. I plan on taking it in Missouri, but you can, like, if I wanted to work in Illinois, I could pay for reciprocity. Usually it's like a $50 charge on top of that. And when I actually applied for jobs, I got a job in Collinsville, Illinois, and Missouri, this one here. So I was entertaining both places at the time where I sat and took my test, but I took it for Missouri. I didn't necessarily plan on coming back because I heard traveling physical therapists can have fun and see a bunch of different things and make a lot of money. But I really love the city of St. Louis. So I wanted to move back into the city. Yeah. And that's where I've been ever since.
And it is. I think any kind of travel, that's something definitely to look into. That there's, and while it's been around in nursing and certain fields longer, it's more popular now in physical therapy. That if you want to travel and see different cities and make some pretty good,
absolutely.
Money.
Yeah, I had 2 or 3
in your 20s. Yeah, and you're single or you want to, travel, whatever the case, you can make some money and see a lot of different cities, even if you're going to settle in St. Louis.
Yeah.
I think your point about the physician assistant is also important. And as all the students, you're all kind of wrapping your head around what you want to do or what message you want to represent. There's all these things where, well, what's a good salary? How can I pay off my student loans, pay my bills, raise a family, buy a car I want? But also, just what message or what philosophy you want to share with people.
Right.
And Elena's point about movement is so important. I know I talk a lot about this with like COVID a lot. We have to talk about all the things we're focusing on when it comes to vaccines and masks and these things, but we're not talking enough about be healthy and move more, get vitamin D and manage your weight and de-stress. And, it's like not a part of the discussion. It's so frustrating, right?
Right.
But I think it's important to say that, and how you said that again, as far as kind of a pharmaceutical approach. Talk a little bit about what a physician assistant can do. What's their role? Where would you run into a PA versus?
So we see a lot of PAs in traditional kind of doctor settings, probably primarily because there's a shortage of MDs and DOs right now. So like if you go to your pediatrician or primary care physician, sometimes you'll see a physician's assistant there. Even when you go see an orthopedic, if you're not going to be a surgery-based patient, oftentimes they'll send you to the physician assistant on staff. And they tend to do non-conservative, non-surgical interventions, which usually is prescribing, giving you therapy or medication or cortisone injections. Basically, they work under a doctor's license and kind of administer the same care, just less involved.
Because they can prescribe, right? They can prescribe, they can do minor surgeries, they can do.
Yeah, I mean, I think they can prescribe medication in most things, but again, the physician that they work under signs off under that. But yeah, for me, the movement being the healing versus having to tell people medication was definitely kind of more desirable.
Right.
And you mentioning COVID, I mean, our practice has completely changed since COVID happened. And in fact, like 2 weeks ago, we had our busiest week since we opened 19 years ago. People are wanting physical therapy. They're wanting to move. They're wanting to get it out of their houses now. I mean, we're seeing people with real mechanical issues, but they're not delaying on getting them fixed anymore. I think at least the clientele that we're seeing here in the St. Louis area and Webster, Crestwood, Kirkwood, Glendale, they're ready to be active again safely. So we've seen a consistent uptick with movement and exercise, which is really good.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting for all the people that kind of stayed at home and became less active. I had a few clients that would see me here and there, and that and training for different reasons. But then they said, "Well, now we go to Blackburn Park, 4 times a week, and we go for a walk, and we feel great. It's good. I mean, there's a time and a place to be in the studios and weight rooms, that we work. For sure. But go use that fitness. Like, how are you using that? Go out, get moving, run around with the kids, and sometimes that can suffice. Until you need a little, retraining or tune up or whatever that might be. So. So who all works? You mentioned this in your clinic. Who currently works in your clinic, and also, Scott, what you guys do, but also opportunities for students. Yeah, so we have PTs. Scott and I are the 2 physical therapists on staff. We have PTAs, physical therapy assistants, which are kind of like our physician's assistants. We have they work under us and follow our plan of care. We have personal trainers that work on staff. And we also have a front office staff and a tech crew. Our tech crew, which is right now Haley, and we have Ellen, they help kind of oversee a lot of the kind of grunt work. They help clean tables, they help fold laundry, they help with the paper shuffle. And okay, can you have someone stretch it for me? Yes. Thank you. I'm going to give them any tips. No, they're good. They're good. Sorry, I'm actively working right now. So we have techs who kind of help on the backside with the paper shuffle and making sure everybody has the documentation. Or we probably have opportunities for people work front of house where they answer calls, work on scheduling, and even look at billing, which I think is also like a huge part of the physical therapy part that we have to understand.
I don't see why a student couldn't do that either, as long as they're trained for that.
Just to be in the world. I say that, I've said to these guys that, like, when I walk in here, like, this is my world. I'm here 5 to 7 days a week. I'm in here for 3 hours to 10 hours a day. And so to know, okay, this is where I'm showing up every single day. So I just can't encourage you enough to go, ideally working as a tech, working as an aide, kind of getting your feet wet, just seeing the environment,
Totally.
the people who come in, and then also think about who you're working with, but just to kind of see that. As far as observation hours, are you guys?
We do observation hours. All you have to do is usually call us. We make you watch a HIPAA privacy video, sign off on that. We take people usually for as many hours as they want, but ain't no shame in your tech game. I mean, you could get paid to get observation hours. So I don't know if Haley's plan is to go into PT or personal training, but right now we're paying her to get her hours done, which is kind of nice.
I'm laughing. Ain't no shame in your tech game. There you go. So that was actually Elena's quote, not mine. But so what that means is, let me decipher that a little bit, is that it's not just observation hours. You have to stand behind Elena for 3 hours, or you have to, just stand in the corner and watch the world. That you can go and you can make money, right? So if you're an athlete, if you're in season right now, what are you doing in the winter? What are you doing in the spring? You'll still have practices and training, and you'll have a minor season. You might go play a game or two, but that's where you can pick up a shift like this. And I know my students, Henny is probably the closest to graduating. I know that he's been working at Athletico for about 2.5 years.
Yeah.
He's made money. He's advanced at Athletico, so he has more responsibilities. He's not just washing towels. He's doing more things now. And he's had all of his observation hours taken care of, his internship hours, things like that. So it's nice to go into different environments, understand the difference between, and I'll ask you the same question I usually ask, but different environments. So for example, you're an outpatient facilities.
Yep.
Did you do any clinical? To finish that thought is that you can get paid plus get the required observation hours that you need if you're going to apply for PT school. And then also, even if you're going into fitness and you're interested in fitness, now you might be thinking, I want to open my own gym. I want to start an online coaching business. Mm-hmm. That's all awesome. Those are wonderful dreams. I've been there and I do a lot of that. But to get into a place and just work there first, and be a trainer in a facility. So even if you're going into fitness, to go observe at the Sports Medicine and Training Center. If you want to get certified as a personal trainer, you can come talk to me. 1 or 2 of you already are. But maybe by sophomore, junior year, you can, do some hours there and kind of learn that as well. Because we talk a lot about that here as far as fitness professionals being able to talk to physical therapists, PTs being able to talk fitness and kind of understand both worlds, because it's all movement based. It's just a matter of whether we're loading that movement or not, right? It's either unloaded movement or we're going to load it with a barbell or something like that. As far as the demographics you work with, now, becoming a PT, we'll talk about, maybe you can mix this in, specializations in PT, but the type of people who come in and like, I don't know, maybe describe generically your next 5 or your last 3 patients.
Yeah. So actually, right before I saw you guys, I started a new patient, 13-year-old gymnast. Concurrently, I had another patient who I think 60-year-old hip pain, wants to work on balance. So we get the whole gamut here. Primarily before COVID hit, we had our patient load was very heavy Medicare age, which is over 65. But when the stay-at-home orders were intact, we saw kind of more of a younger group because I guess the people over 65 didn't feel comfortable being out, which was recommended. But now we have a good mix. We have people from high school athletes. I have a football player who blew his PCL that I'm seeing 3 days a week. I also have a 25-year-old male who had a lateral epicondylitis release. So it's a mixed bag in this outpatient setting, at least here specifically, which is good. Oftentimes you can go to outpatient rehab and you're just seeing total knee. But we got a good mix. And not everybody has pain. Some people were just working on their function or their balance. We oftentimes focus that pain is why you need for physical therapy, but it really isn't. We should almost do physical therapy before we get to pain that makes movement nearly impossible. So I think the viewpoint with physical therapy and how we can help early on is changing, and you can really see it with our patient load right now.
Yeah, you know how proactive to be. I mean, pain is usually, layers upon layers of dysfunction coming to the surface
Absolutely.
finally, right? So, either we can dip into butter, but that's just us sensing that, knowing if your ankle's off or knowing if a knee is off and what that
Right.
is going to turn into.
Yeah.
Um, which again, I think it's another, when you're thinking about what you want to do, you're thinking physical therapy. It's a matter of, do you want to specialize in total knees? Do you want to specialize in SI,
Right.
back pain, or do you want to be a jack of all trades? It's fun to meet different people and work with different people and things like that. So
Right.
when it comes to that, have you gone through any specializations? Have you decided I want to specialize in a certain tool or technique or a
Yeah.
demographic?
So I have not necessarily yet. So if you go to our professional organizing website, apta.org, you can look at the different specializations that you can get being a PT there. I believe they're like orthopedic, pediatrics, sports medicine. There's a lymphedema one, geriatrics. And for those, you sit for a test and then you get these certain credentials behind your name. Other than DPT, you would get like you guys have a certified conditioning specialist. Is that OCOS or something?
Yes.
Yeah. We can do the same thing. I have thought about doing that, but at least right now where I'm at this clinic, with Scott and I being the only PTs, it wouldn't necessarily change what I'm doing or change my income. However, I do think that in the future, I do plan on doing that, but right now I have not. Scott has gotten certified in a technique called ASTEM, which utilizes silicone tools to do kind of like massage work. That was also expensive. I think that was like $5,000, and he doesn't utilize that quite as much. Now, I mean, I'm sure he wrote it off as like continuing education. But I have thought about getting specialized in dry needling. That's kind of like a new trend in Missouri that I think would be worthwhile doing, but I haven't necessarily looked into that quite yet.
Has anyone, asking my students, has anyone done dry needling, acupuncture of any kind? Because that's interesting. You can talk about that a little bit. If you go, I've been to a chiropractor.
Yeah.
Actually, I've been to two different chiropractors where one did acupuncture and one was like very surface level.
Yeah.
And it wasn't quite Eastern medicine meridians necessarily. It was like the former athletic trainer for the St. Louis Cardinals, actually, who did it. But then I went to another DC who actually did deep acupuncture with electric stim.
Yeah.
So instead of electric stim pads, he was going deep into my ankle in spots, and it was interesting.
Yeah.
But I know the PT world. Oh yeah, I mean, he did my lumbar spine, so he did my spine, but my lower back, and
yeah.
And the amount of thick tissue, just the whole, thoracolumbar. I mean, it was to get through that with a needle, it was pretty awful. He's like, you've done a lot of deadlifts, sorry, and he like sticks, whatever. And then he did one in my ankle joint actually, where he went deep into my ankle joint, which is interesting. It really versus in the PT world, they're going to call it dry needling, and it's a little bit different as far as what they're doing, as far as causing kind of micro trauma, right? And then healing.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on, I think, what the purpose is. I've seen videos where the guy put the needle, he's like, oh, you just drop it all the way to the femur, and then you pull it out and pull out the fascia, which to me seems like really deep and not appropriate. But I mean, it's kind of trendy right now. So maybe that, and like cupping too is pretty trendy. I don't think you need certifications for that, but you need to learn how to use the tools.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, there's so many things that you can get certified in or learn in physical therapy over the years that you'll never be bored.
Sure. So continuing education, how is that an investment that you set up? Is that something that that Does Sports Medicine Training Centers pay for that, or they'll give you a stipend for that? How does that work?
Yeah, so here they give us a stipend. They give us $1,000 a year, and our continuing education block for our license is every 2 years. So we have to get 30 hours every 2 years in the state of Missouri. That can vary per state. I thought I heard that therapists need 40 hours in Illinois, but I'm not 100% sure since I've only been licensed in the state of Missouri. So really, I mean, $1,000 does suffice it. And this last year and a half was weird. So a lot of our courses were online because they weren't doing in-person courses.
Sure.
Because traditionally they want you to have a mix of online, maybe self-study, and in person.
Switch gears back to dance a little bit. Have you done much work with specifically dancers? I know you have gone down to the Fox before a little bit and worked with.
Yeah, so Scott and I previously, with traveling shows, we got hooked up with a company called NeuroTour. And what they do is they contract physical therapists.
Like nervous system? Like NeuroTour?
NeuroTour, yeah. NEURO and then tour. And actually they do hire traveling therapists for traveling Broadway shows. But not every show pays for a therapist to be with them 24/7. So what this company does is if a show needed a therapist once a week, they'd find somebody in the city that they were in. And usually we would do that twice a week for certain shows. So yeah, like I've worked with Book of Mormon. I mean, really quite a few. Wizard of Oz, a bunch. Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat, Flashdance, probably around 13 to 18 shows, 13 to 20. It's been a lot, but obviously this past year, they haven't been doing any of it. We recently got an email saying that they were going to start that again, but we haven't heard any contact for that yet.
Right. Are you guys doing any virtual PT?
We tried. I know Scott did quite a bit. For me, I had a couple patients who did it, but really it was more, I talked to them and they wanted to know how I was doing during COVID, which was very sweet, but I wasn't going to bill them for that.
Right.
At this moment, we are not doing virtual PT, but our trainers are doing virtual sessions. So they'll get their clients on and work on a workout with them, but it's an option. I mean, if things uptick again, we might try to go back to that, but I'm very hands-on and I think Scott is too. So that didn't really work well, in my opinion.
And again, back to the COVID and all the decisions being made, I think people need human connection and they need relationships. And I think that the collateral damage of some of these things that hurt, so the more you can do online. I mean, it's nice to do, if you could do something online effectively, but the more you can do it in person rather. I did talk to someone though. I was down at Table Rock area and there's a gentleman who had like a hip replacement and he had like a home PT come twice or 3 times. And then he did all virtual PT and he loved it.
Wow. Wow.
Now, maybe he's motivated and, it's just different people who might do that, or do well with that, I guess. They're busy, he's running a business and yada, yada, and he's okay with that. As far as home physical therapy?
Yeah.
Have you looked at that? Or is that ever, as far as that life, or do you know anyone who does?
Yeah. So usually it's contracted out, I think through a hospital or there's different home care therapists that go in. So typically in cases of like a total hip or a total knee, they will do home therapy for 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, 2 times a week. And it's kind of very similar, I think, to the acute setting of physical therapy. When they're in the hospital with you, they want to watch you walk. They want to watch you go up and down stairs. They want to make sure you're safe. Yeah. Basically, the physician usually orders home therapy when you can't get in a car to go to therapy. I personally never worked in home therapy, but I hear that you can pick your own hours, pick your own clients. It allows you more flexibility with your schedule, which is kind of nice. We did have a therapist here who worked at our Clayton location. Her husband was a firefighter. And because of his hours being the 24 hours on and 24 hours off, childcare was very difficult with our hours here. So she actually moved to home therapy. And I think that worked out for her family for a while.
Yeah, nice. As far as now, Belleville's not that far. I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's kind of a little bit smaller city, but it's still kind of considered St. Louis. Although
Yep.
Belleville fans are usually Cubs fans instead of Cardinals. But
Not true.
one of my clients, her husband's from like Chesterfield, and she's from Belleville, and like her whole family is like all Cubs, and he's Cardinals. So yeah. But as far as where you're going to be a PT, like we have students from all over Missouri, Illinois, and then all over the country, really. But as far as deciding on, describe it as a saturated market. There's a lot of people. Now, I think the market, there's still a demand because there's so many people wanting to move.
Yeah.
But as far as the difference between, the profession itself, maybe the salary range between being in St. Louis, Crestwood, Webster Groves versus Belleville, Peoria, Lake of the Ozarks, wherever kind of areas. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I totally will. I've been at this job for 11 years, so it's hard for me to say what the numbers are now. But if you look at the schools that we have like 3 physical therapy schools here. We have Washington University, SLU, Maryville.
And we're in the early stages of developing one.
And Webster, Webster. So we technically, if people want to stay, I guess you could see or think that we do have a saturated market. I had a friend who we went to PT school in Springfield. I had 2 friends who went to smaller rural areas, one in Oklahoma and one in Mississippi. They both signed on for incomes that were $10K more than me, with a $15,000 sign on. So technically,
Where was this?
One was in the bottom of Mississippi, and the other one was in nowhere, Oklahoma. I don't even think a city. And I think the guy in Oklahoma signed on for 72K, and I think he either had a 10K or 15K sign-on bonus.
Okay.
Now he did that because he owed 100K in student loans. And now he moved back. He's in Chesterfield now and working at Mercy. So you do what you got to do to pay off loans. But I think I signed on for a pretty competitive pay too then. But I'm not sure what we're offering people now in 2021.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I think, and I don't know, you can answer this however you want or however you're most comfortable, but, and not about salary, but as far as just, what your bills were at 20 years old, 24 years old versus today. Yeah. As far as your understanding of money or where money goes or how far it stretches or things to think about when it comes to salary. So you say, 50, 60, 70K, 72K signing bonuses, but as far as benefits go, the importance of some of those things, there's more websites. I saw something the other day about, it was just called something, I don't know, stupidcrap.com or something. It broke down all the dumb things I bought when I was 20 or 18 or whatever, 20, any age, 30. I still buy some stupid crap. But if I would have invested that, or if I would have saved that, what would that have turned into?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't even speak to that at all. As far as just what, paying bills or how much you realize, what if, 30 grand a year is at one age versus another or something.
Right. So after 7 years of school, I owed $33K. So what I did honestly is
was that grant or scholarship, or how did you?
So I was out of state for a while at Missouri State. My parents said, we're going to help you as much as we can with undergrad, but we're going to take out loans, and what we can't do, you have to help. My mom was able to switch me to in-state somehow. So for undergrad, I only owed $15,000, and then I worked as a waitress, almost full time for 5 years, starting junior year of undergrad I worked the whole time with PT school. Okay. So with added PT school, I owed $18,000. So I owed $33K once all the loans were done. Basically what I did was I moved home. I found this job. I lived for home for 2 years, and I paid off all my loans. Now I just recently traded in my 2001 Saturn for 2012 Ford Escape. And I just upgraded my iPhone 6 to iPhone 11 or whatever,
Right.
I'm pretty cheap. So,
Yeah.
so was it worth being where I wanted to be and making less money than my friend who moved to nowhere, Oklahoma? Absolutely. Like St.
Sure.
Louis was where I wanted to be. I felt like I got competitive pay. I
Yep.
should have negotiated a little more. They don't teach you that, and always negotiate what you think you're worth. Don't be afraid to counterbalance or counter for your income. But
Yeah.
I did not do that. But I'm happy. You're right. I mean, money isn't all that's important. I've got a good job. I think and I'm fulfilled. So we're good.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. That's
Yeah.
perfect. I think so many lessons to be learned there. It's so hard, as far as like you said, as far as upgrading to the newest technology or whatever car you're driving. And I think that's the difference between, like in the fitness world, it's like how hard do you work out every single day? You beat yourself up. Now you're not going to be able to work out in 10 years.
Right.
Versus budgeting now to where you can enjoy, being active and fit for the next 30 years. And I think we budget money the same way, that because of those choices and those sacrifices, that, you pay things
Yeah.
off. I mean, it's tremendous to get out with 33,000 in loans to have your
Yeah.
DPT, so
Yeah, it
that's,
was a hustle. I mean,
a
Missouri
lot
State
of
is
work.
relatively cheap compared to SLU and WashU. So I definitely looked into that as well. But
Mhm.
school, no matter how you slice it, it's not cheap. So
Right. Right.
you got to
No, the
figure it
more you
out.
can work, the better. So speaking of, Maya asked,
Yeah.
in order to shadow or work as an assistant there or to get more experience, what do you have to do? So what does someone do?
Yeah. So just to shadow, you just call up. You ask, I think Roberta, that's our owner, one of the owners, and she can get you set up on hours, what you want. Now, to be a tech, same thing. If you are interested in teching, you can ask if we have hours available. To be an assistant, that's an associate's degree. That's not something you could just do as a student. But teching or shadowing are totally available. So you just have to call and talk to the front of the house and get it set up.
What's the difference between a tech and an aide? Is there a specific difference? A tech
Yes.
and
So
aide?
the text is just Haley who's interested in it, and wants to kind of observe while also getting hours and paid. To be an assistant,
No, no,
you
no,
have
aide.
to an aide. We don't. I mean, we
Or is it the
call them
same thing?
assistants. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you could call a tech an aide, I guess, but
Okay.
when you say aide, I automatically go to the assistants, which is like a 2-year degree
Yeah. Yeah.
through Merrimack.
Yeah, we looked into that as far as what that could look like.
Yeah.
Is there a way to integrate that into a 4-year degree or something? Because I did have one student once go through our 4-year degree, well, junior college and then our 2 years, and then go to Merrimack and become an
Yeah.
assistant. Versus he could have just gone right into that. And so,
Yeah. I mean, if you guys are getting your undergrad, I say go the extra year. It's an extra year. You won't have a ceiling. Like I love our assistants, but they are limited in some of the things that they can do.
yeah,
When you're a PT, you don't have a ceiling and you could do a lot more.
yeah. So, who do you like working with the most? What person who walks in are you excited about?
It really depends on the day. Like working with this gymnast was really fun today. Eager to get back. But I also like my little 91-year-old lady who just wants to get back to regular exercise, and I got to be there to balance, help her with movement. As long as you're eager to get better, I like that. Certainly we do still have those people that just want to take a pill and have it healed and not move, and you can tell those people really quick.
Yeah.
They're still here, but that's not the bulk of our patient load. So as long as you want to move and work, I usually like working with them. I like a mixed bag.
And how do you get your own workouts in? How do you make time for your
Um,
own training?
so how we do stuff here is we're open Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We're here 13 hours, or the clinic's open 13 hours. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, we're open 11. So I work a couple longer days. I work a long day Wednesday. I work a long day Friday. And on Monday and Tuesday, I work kind of half days. So I'll usually work out Monday morning, Tuesday morning. I've been running a lot. I have a kind of like a squat rack and some things in my basement. You just got to get it done, man. And
Yeah.
we move a lot here. We're not sitting. So I'm always like lifting a leg,
Sure.
stretching people out. So that's another perk of the job.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's always moving. You know, a friend of mine was a trainer I worked with, and she went to our school at SLU. She just became a
Mhm.
student, became an RD, and she had a hard time managing her weight for the first semester because she was teaching 2 aerobics classes a week. She was training people
Right.
all day long, just kind of moving. All of a sudden, she's like, "Oh my gosh, it's killing me." Because I'm sitting as a student all day. But I also
Yeah.
asked that because, you know, just because you work in a gym doesn't mean you're working out. Like when I mentioned to a
Right.
client that I have TRX straps hanging in my basement, or I have some kettlebells at home, or I would like to do more at home, they're like, "Why would you do that? Like you have this whole gym, whatever." And it's just
Yeah.
hard to find time, you know, or in your case, work out in front of patients or clients or
Yes.
coworkers and that
Yes.
sort of thing. So,
Absolutely. Well,
you
and
know,
really, like, health is 80% nutrition. So I do tend to really kind of watch my nutrition
sure.
aspect of it. So too.
Yeah. Any questions for Elena other than what has been asked? Jam through the comments real quick. Let me know you're here. If you haven't let me know you're here.
Yeah, and if you guys, like I said, you want to shadow or even apply for a tech, if you want to call our office, I think we're 314-961-3787. Or, you can shoot me an email. Dave has my email. I can forward it to whoever needs it.
Sorry, that's me. And then also, what's your website?
We're smtcstl.com.
They're asking. So they're thinking about GRE test. What was the process in that test? And any tips? Oh, what was the test like? Oh, the GRE, GER, but the GRE.
Yeah, the GRE. That was like 11 years ago. I remember not liking it at all. And I think it's very English and vocabulary heavy. I would recommend studying. The unfortunate thing is I don't remember it being very heavy science, which seems kind of weird since we're a science-based profession. But it was like any other standardized test. It took 3 to 4 hours. There was a writing section and a vocabulary section. I'm sorry, I'm not really helpful on that. I don't really remember. I'm not sure. I don't think all graduate schools require the GRE, but I think it might be recommended. I mean, and
Yeah,
I
I
think
think
too,
you're right
after
about
COVID, a lot of these schools changed their requirements with standardized testings, but they might be back up again.
Yeah, I mean, it's a constant debate. I think more and more, and it is tough because, you know, and the reality of it for you guys and all of us is, I mean, we talk about one thing. Like Elena and I are at a stage where people walk in and they kind of, well, I imagine you know something. So we
Yeah.
talk about people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And there's a lot of that when you're at that early stage. They got to figure out, like, what do you know? What have you learned? There has to be something on a piece of paper that says A, B, or C, some sort of major, some sort of minor. There has to be some sort of structured, standard, you know, test or exam. So while you may say, I'm just not a good test taker, unfortunately, you know, the ACT and the SAT and the GRE and all these things are just ways to say, you know, kind of give you an idea of where you are. But I
Yeah.
think there's more and more maybe careful consideration over the fact that maybe you're not a great test taker, but hands-on, you have great bedside manner, you're a great person, you work hard, you know, and you're learning and that sort of thing. Because there's a lot of very cerebral, intelligent people who can
Right.
ace the ERE, but they have a hard time building rapport with the patient or holding conversation, right? So,
Yeah, and
so
I
they
wasn't
don't all
very
require.
average. I was completely average in the GRE, but like I said before, I
Yeah,
got in there. I talked to the guy before he even saw my application. I asked him about the program. I wrote thank you letters for his time.
yeah,
Anytime he can see your name more, as opposed to, like Dave said on the application, is better. If he
yeah,
can put a face with your name, it's better.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, we'll talk about that as far as applying. Because you go to PTCAS, it makes it very easy. But
yeah,
instead of just generically applying to Missouri State or North Dakota, if you can email somebody and say, "Hey, can I have a conversation with someone about your program?" and
yeah,
that can really open up doors and get your name, you know, kind of on their radar anyway. So, all right. All right, Elena, thank you so much. I know you're busy. How many patients have you seen today already, by the way? It's 10 o'clock.
I'm not sure how many so far, but I'm seeing 18 today total.
Do I hear that? Again, and that's a lot of clinics. You think about that as far as how busy you are or what you have to do today. I mean, 18 patients, it's a lot, but it's fun.
Yeah.
You really have
Keeps
to
you
love
going,
it.
keeps you moving.
That's right. All right, thank you so much. This has been awesome.
No problem.
I'm going to let Elena go, but I want you guys to stick around just for 2 seconds, and I'll chat with you, and then I'll let you go. So,
Awesome.
all right.
Guys,
thank you so much. I so appreciate it.
No problem. Anytime.
All right. I'll see you. Hey, real quick, I'll send out a quick quiz. A couple questions just about that. If you have any other questions, look in the comments. So there's a website you can visit, a phone number, whatever. But if you have any questions about any of these things, just shoot me an email or ask me next Wednesday. And I think we're going to do another virtual with another PT from Apex Physical Therapy. But any questions about anybody we talk to, they're all great. I mean, there's a reason I kind of asked them to come on. You can talk to them, go shadow, go work, whatever. So, all right. Otherwise, have a great day. See you next Wednesday. Look out for announcements and that quiz. See you.